Hello there, welcome back to Yubistudio. I'm Yubi and this is a tutorial for beginners to do mixed media abstract landscape. This tutorial is meant to just last about 20 to 30 minutes. Perfect for beginners. We're not going to draw anything representative or any specific subjects that you have to mimic. It is created and meant to be a very beginner friendly, but releasing your stress and letting your consciousness bloom. Probably not going to fast forward any of the steps except for the drawing time. So you are just welcome to turn it on and follow along. So first is the materials that I'm going to go over really quickly. There is wet material and dried material. So anything that is going to be mixed with water or oil, in this case, I do recommend water because they dry quickly. I have watercolor sets here, and they're just small carry portable pan sets from Amazon that I will link below. And I have 2 water cups that you can see here. I usually have 1 water cup that is kept clean as possible to kind of change out the color when I want the brush to have a total new color. And the regular water cup is for just mixing in between any color is available to dip in there. And my dried medium, I brought oil pastels, and oil pastels are different from just pastels. They are more rich and more pigmented than pastels, and they are not that dry like pastels. And I always sketch with oil pastels because they're usually clean on my hands, and you don't need much layers to create a clear subject or a line. If you don't have oil pastels, I do recommend any kind of crayons or color pencils will do, or even pens. If you have any gel pens or watermark pens that could go on to any kind of dried surface, it will work. But if you are looking to purchase any oil pastels, you could find any packs that is small like this with like 10 to 20 colors. I do recommend to try to use it because they're my favorite to go to. And I will have these in the link down below. And this is my sketchbook. This is just a vintage paper sketchbook that I've had for a really long time. I think I got it from Amazon. I tend to lean towards sketchbooks that already have kind of a base color like this, especially a vintage paper would always draw my attention. And it's because I like the vintage style, and also rather than just white blank space, I do like a space that already has a little bit of texture and color. So this paper is heavier than about 250 GSM, which means it's very heavier than a cartridge paper that you'll find. So I do recommend, if you have a sketchbook that could carry a bit of heavy material, I think this was about 250 GSM, but anything over than 150 GSM, it'll be able to hold paper or this collage here or any watery base. So I do recommend to getting a sketchbook like this or any surface that you have like this. And secondly, this workshop or this tutorial is inspired by really expressing and just releasing your power and your unconsciousness. And it's kind of like developing or seeing or creating the landscape inside you that kind of visualizes your unconsciousness, because that's where your power and your possibility is. I am inspired by Carl Jung's psychology a lot, and he talks about that there is a power and possibility in consciousness, and unconsciousness is what really affects our conscious. And you're probably here because you really wanted to draw for a really long time, but you haven't put into action, and probably something that's in you or something that you think you are feared about, or self-doubt is kind of probably stopping you to create this. But I'm here that you are going to see how unconsciousness could reveal and create something beautiful. And this is my world of consciousness, and you could tell it's beautiful. First of all, we are going to put the wet layers. So as you know, everything goes in by layers, and that's the really fun part about mixed media, is that you can go on layers and layers, and you just see the work kind of evolve from that layer. You don't have any expectations, you don't have to copy anything. It's just, we're really going to enjoy the material and see what it reveals from your unconsciousness. And even here, I'm not going to even talk about color theory. I just want you to explore the palette that you already have on your watercolor or any kind of paint that you have. You could do acrylics, you could do watercolor. It doesn't matter. Even gouache is fine too. Anything that's water-based will be fine. I have a tiny little palette here, so I'm just going to use whatever. And the first layer, I do recommend to use a lot of water. And of course, you might, I'm probably assuming that you don't have a lot of experience with paint, but it's okay. If you really see that water and pigment kind of getting together almost in a rich, milky kind of substitute or texture, I think that'll do. And you'll see when you put it on your layer. And of course, water, if you add more water, it'll let the pigment really flow out. And when the water is wet, it's a perfect time to add a different color, or you can make the blue a little more pigmented in some places. So I'm just digging that pigment from the watercolor pan and just adding a little bits in here. But usually for the first layer, I'm just all about water and filling the space. I'm actually gonna choose yellow. So in terms of color theory, very simply, I just look at colors that's warm and that's cold, and the colors that are light and that are dark. So right now, I'm just going to think about cold and warm. So since I have a cold blue here, I'm going to go with warm yellow. I'm not mixing anything. I'm just coming directly from my pan. Whatever's there, I'm going to use it. And I hope you do that too. And intentionally, I'm going to leave some blanks of this tanned paper because I think leaving negative space creates interesting composition. And as you see, I am kind of extending my way to the next page as well. And oh, I just mixed yellow and blue that I just used, and I kind of like this turquoise dark green color. And just this, it's a point of where you're not going to stop your brush. Don't think. You're only going to move as your finger is going, and that's actually the power of unconsciousness. It moves from whatever you do. And Carl Jung actually said using your hands and crafting is one of the best ways to really release and let the unconscious work. And even look at the pan, and if there's a color that really echoes to you today, go ahead and tag on this color. I'm going to tag on this brick color here, and wherever there's wet, I'm going to just dab this color and let it connect. And it's really wet here, and I love when there's a wet spot because I could just add a bit more color here. Just drop pigments here and it'll do. I'm just picking with my fingers. And without water or with just a wet brush, I am taking some just pigments of red and hinting it on the background. So since this is kind of a visualization of your inner landscape in your unconsciousness, I do think about getting the bottom darker to create that horizon. And so I'm going to choose a little bit of darker color. Remember, in the color theory, I'm just letting you think bright and dark, and I'm just getting a dark blue and making that bottom part dark. Just because it's horizon. Okay. And this is going to be my first layer. I'm going to let this first layer dry. For me, I actually have a craft dryer here. It's dryers just for craft. But if you don't have this, you can use your hair dryer, or you can just air dry, and you can come back for our next layer. So my first layer is about 80% dry. It doesn't have to be completely dry because it's gonna blend anyways. Another thing that I did, I had some small towels, and if I had too much puddles, I kind of dabbed it and then I dried it. That dabbing kind of creates this, I don't know how to say it, little puddles with outline on it, because the outline's kind of pushed with the towel and it creates that interesting shape. We're going to do another wet layer, but this time our second wet layer is going to be less wet than the first layer. As if the first layer kind of becomes the overall ground over a landscape or over a heart, the second layer is going to be the ground. Like, it could be an ocean, it could be a forest, it could be any soil, it doesn't matter, but whatever it goes to you. We're gonna still add water, but as not much as the first layer. To do that, I'm just gonna mix a bit more paint on another part of my palette without less water. And I do tend towards a little bit darker than the first layer. And with the color temperature, I think right now I kind of like this blue going on over here, like ocean. So I'm going to tend a little bit more cold, like that blue. And right now, as you can see, I don't have that much water than the first layer. And what I'm going to do is just create a horizon. And we're just thinking about lines. We're not even talking about shape. It's all about push and pull of your brush. And you can go wherever you want. And I'm pushing and then I'm pulling, and wherever it stops, it stops. You could fill it up with color. If not, you can keep drawing the line down. And if you want a little blended here, that's when water comes in. I'm just gonna blend it. I think I like it how it kind of looks like ocean. And the purpose of this is first really kind of get you going of your sketchbook practice, but second is to really see what's visually beautiful that's residing inside you, and it really shows that you are capable and that you are creative, and you don't really have to be afraid to express that. And I think art is a great tool, just like Young said, is a great tool to release that power from your unconsciousness, and that's where all the possibility that you don't know kind of lies in. I think I have enough blues here. I'm kind of gonna go for a green in those places that's very wet, so I can have that blended green and blue terrain. And I think this is where my drips could come in. I think I'm gonna go drips this way this time. So drips is all about water and paint, and you're just going to add as much as paint you want, and then add water together and push it down at the top until it kind of pushes down. Whoa, I'm gonna stop there. And drips is another, I think, a form of unconsciousness because it goes to a place that you don't know. And usually we could call it as a happy mistake, but I think it's also called as unexpected beauty. And all I'm doing is I kind of dab a little bit of water out of my out of my brush and just dab it out. And as you can see, I think it's cool overall right now, so I'm going to add a little bit of warm. Let's see if this orange comes out. And with the orange, I'm just having a lot of pigment on my brush, and I'm adding wherever it's red. And what it's doing, the water is just doing its job, just making everything wet and blending. And don't be afraid, just see if this water is too much, try to dab on it. See if it's too much, then get rid of it. Maybe just dab it on your towel and try to come back to it. That's the whole point of this tutorial, to really just get you being used to the brush and the paint, and see that it's actually paint doing it for you, and it's actually your beautiful unconsciousness doing it for you. Okay, this is my second layer. I think I'm going to finish it here and dry it out and come back for my last layer of oil pastels. So my second layer is dry, and it's drier than the first layer because we're going to have dried materials go on top. And I am going to choose my oil pastels that's going to go on. So you can choose from the rack like straight away and just choose whatever colors that you want to go on. But as we talked about the simple color theory that I have, I'm going to think about dark and light colors and then warm and cold colors. So I chose for dark colors greens and blues. That's dark green actually. This is a bit more turquoise blue. And for my light colors, I have yellows and pinks, but there are also warm tones too. So there's my warm and dark bright tones, and there's my cold and dark tones. But you can do the either way. You can do cold and bright tones. I actually have a bright light blue here, so that can fall into my light area right here. And my dark tones, I have one blue and a green. And for my middle tone, I'm actually going to add a middle tone. I have a green here that's about middle tone in between these two. And when it's set, I'm going to lay down our darker tone first. I'm probably going to use this dark green. And because this is an abstract landscape and it's about visualizing our beautiful inner unconscious land, I'm gonna also target the horizon here. And we're still thinking about lines. Like, I know sometimes it could be a little difficult to think about shapes, but if you're not fond of drawing, or if you're not really practicing shapes or figures every day, it might be a little hard to bring the shape out. Then all I do is just go with the line and follow your hand that wherever it's going, and you will see that it's eventually lines that's creating the shapes. So all I'm doing is I'm gonna hover around the horizon area and I'm kind of seeing where that watercolor mark is, and depending on that mark, I'm kind of crisscrossing those shapes of watercolors and seeing where this horizon could lie. And we don't even have to start on edges. I'm going to start on this crisscross point over here and create more lines. And I think this horizon is going to go all the way to the top. And look, there's already shapes that's created. And according to the shapes that I'm seeing, I'm just going to color that. And that's a shape that's created by the lines that might be a little part of my heart of consciousness that has hope and mercy. And there's a little shape here too that kind of creates a hill. And I'm going to move on to my turquoise. That's another dark color of mine. And I'm going to create, if you're more comfortable with your pastels now, or oil pastels, I do recommend to, just like we did with the watercolor, I'm kind of pushing and pulling it out, and pushing and pulling it out. And even here, I'm just letting go all my tension and just let the line do it. And I'm seeing little shapes here. I'm going to fill that in. I'm going to fill here. And if you're comfortable, I'm going to actually create some lines that's a little shorter or longer, or that's connecting. And we have a little open space here that's kind of like a sky. I'm going to add a little bit of fun little touches. It kind of looks like fishes or something. And I'm going to move on mine to midtones. So midtones, I do recommend, if we think this could be the horizon, maybe a little bit above the horizon, so it kind of connects the ground and the sky. I'm going to do that. And hopefully you're comfortable by here, because I'm creating shapes just by my movements without the lines. See if you can do that. Circles, circles, circles of thoughts. They're circles of possibilities, getting rid of fear, getting rid of rejection, getting rid of doubt. And I'm going to move on to my brighter, the lightest tones, which is my warm tones. I have a little pink here, and I drew these kind of hills over here. I'm going to color that with a pink. I think those hills are very interesting. And here I'm going to add some lines and to create that shape. And I intentionally leave some space out because I just want to appreciate how the watercolor on the top kind of created that new landscape. So I just want to, I don't want to cover all that. And I have some yellow here. And just be creative with your line. Just think about music. It's about stopping, and then it goes move, and it moves on quickly. And then sometimes it kind of move slowly to create that line. And lastly, I have this, I think this is my brightest out of my palette. And think about the brightest will be like the highlights, you know, it's like the most popping area. So think about where I'm going to make this the bright part. But to be honest, like when I'm doing this, I don't really think much. And the purpose of this tutorial is for you to not think much, but really trust on your unconsciousness, that it has a creative power in you already. And just let the hand flow. Don't stop, don't think, don't plan. It's about knowing how beautiful your talent is, and seeing what things that you can create without planning, without really thinking, without being too smart, because it's already on your hand and it's already in your unconsciousness. I just love creating the speckles. It's kind of like snow or maybe bubbles under the sea. I'm going to bring this and make this a little dark over here. All right, and there is my final abstract landscape of my unconscious world or the inner world in my unconsciousness. I hope this exercise really helped you to open your sketchbook again and really explore with the materials that you already have or something that you want to explore. This tutorial is meant to really encourage you and to realize that your hands is a way to create and to explore and investigate how talented and capable you are. And I'm very happy to see this unexpected result, to really encounter that there's a beautiful space in my heart and in my world, and it's worth to visualize it and to see it. Thank you for painting with me, and you could do it. I would really love to see what you have created, and see you in my next tutorial. Bye! I have my original artworks available on my website, and they have been updated since I've been asked from my clients and my supporters where to purchase my original artworks. They are divided in sizes, so feel free to explore, and thank you so much for supporting in this way. And other than that, I also have divided collections of my art where you can really explore and see, and also in photography as well. Thank you.